Hello, beautiful people. Hello, hello, and welcome back to my couch. I'm back at home, back on my sofa, not up in the bedroom, coming to you live from my couch. Welcome, welcome. Unfortunately, we still have technical issues. It seems that issues are related to something other than internet connection, other than Wi Fi, other than camera. There's just no end to the challenges. And I'm a little bit late today because today we did have cameras, which has now been sorted out, and still have a bit of a lag in the picture. So if you'll bear with me, hang in there. And I know that I will get there eventually, and this live will be smooth and polished and beautiful. In the meantime, it is not very smooth and polished, but hopefully still beautiful and full of self-love tips for you. The experience that I've had today actually brings me to the topic that I want to talk about today, and that is with the work we do. We focus on all the problems and how much we have to be grateful for. I was reminded of this yesterday in a conversation with a friend of mine when we were talking about my husband who works away, far, far away, and for prolonged periods of time, and he's been home for a wonderful holiday, and he just left again yesterday. And what was fresh in my mind yesterday as I was chatting with her was all the wonderful stuff about him and about our relationship and the time that we spent together. And I was really expressing all the positives and all the things that do work and how wonderful it was to have him here and how much fun we had. And it felt so good. I felt so good talking about that. I was reminded of how I forget to celebrate my own stuff. What is great about being me? What a relationship with friends, colleagues, family, what we focus on depicts the tone of the relationship, and it also depicts the future of the relationship. Your focus decides your future. Thinking about my relationship, I was thinking there are so many things that you could focus on that don't work. For example, um, what did my partner say that upset me? Well, what about what your partner said that was really uplifting and beautiful? Are you taking it for granted? Where is your focus? So let's reel this whole theme back to self-love. When last did you celebrate something that you achieved? When last did you acknowledge the personality traits that you bring that add value? When last did you just sit with yourself in gratitude for everything that you have to offer? A great way to do this, for it to really sink in, is to write it down. So you just pick a time to pause. Anyone who knows me knows that I recommend mornings, me time mornings or magic mornings. There's that space when you've just come out of sleep state and you're not come out from your day and thinking about what it is that you bring. What is your value? What can you acknowledge that you haven't acknowledged for some time? It's possible that you've a lot just in the past few days. It's possible that you've added immense value and nobody else might have acknowledged it. Nobody else might have realized. Nobody else might have taken time out to compliment you. So how have you complimented you? How have you acknowledged what you've done, what you've brought, what you have to add? Sometimes we don't have other people around us to mirror back to us all the positive qualities. Sometimes we do, and that's great. Do we hear those compliments and acknowledgements? Do we receive them? It's so important. One of the things that I do in my journal each night at the end of the day is I make note of any compliments that I received during that day. This practice has really, really upped my self-love game because when I acknowledge compliments that I've received, I literally have to receive it. As I write it down in my own personal journal space, I have to receive it. And that focus, the theme of today's talk, that focus on compliments received really reminds me to focus on what I'm made of, and what I bring, and what I have to offer. We are very, very programmed to look at a problem and start thinking of solutions. But what happens is a memory problem. And then you start focusing on memory problem. Memory problem measuring things. I have a memory problem, and that's your focus. And as you focus on that problem, the problem grows. That's where your focus is going. Whereas if you acknowledge that you've been and quite forgetful lately, hello, Erin. Welcome, welcome, and thank you for being here. I'm going to read your comment out just after this, and then we can chat about that a bit more. Just to tie up what I was saying about focusing on the problem, if you start focusing, so you might identify the fact that you have been experiencing a bit of a challenge in the memory area. And then you can say, well, I'm going to focus on things that I do remember. How often have you tried that? So literally the next time you go, oh, where is my favorite gold pen? I was using it the other day. Oh, I remember. I put it in my handbag. Acknowledge that. Just take a split second to go, I remembered. I remembered. And immediately your focus is shifted from the actual problem to solution, or to an area connected to the problem where you actually do, where you actually are solving. Let's just talk a little bit more about compliments again. Thanks, Erin, for your comments. Receiving compliments is my weak point. I can't seem to do it and take them on without laughing at them. Ah, there we go. That's another very strong social program, and I don't know if it's just Western culture and society or if it's all around the world. It seems to be all around the world, in that when somebody else acknowledges us, we rather kind of step back and deface. In your case, Erin, you laugh it off. It's almost like it's ingrained in us through our programming and our upbringing to not receive acknowledgement. And how do we love ourselves if we can't even allow other people to love us? Compliments are a form of love. They fall into words of affirmation, one of the love languages, according to Gary Chapman. If you haven't read that book, it's really, really good. The 5 love languages, I think it's called the 5 love languages. So much to learn in there. And compliments, words of affirmation, is a love language. Receiving compliments is as important as giving them. And as with everything self-love, we tend to give it away so easily, to focus on others, and we need to focus on ourselves. We need to. The very theme of this Friday session that I do every week is just that. This is a practice. Selfish, as in taking care of the self first, so that there will be more to use in service, to give to others, to love others. Not self-centeredness. Self-centeredness is something quite different. Self-centered is that space of being where somebody only cares about their own sensation, their own experience, their own outcome, and they have no regard for how their outcome, their behavior, their actions affect people around them. Selfishness is something else. Selfish is taking care of self. Selfish is putting self first. And as tough as that might seem, because it goes against all the programming we've received, it is imperative to put yourself first in order that you can serve others. So Erin, I challenge you, I'm always up for a challenge, in the week to come, between today and next Friday, to note the compliments you receive as my practice. So each day at the end of the day, do backward flick flacks or jump through hoops of fire. Just say thank you. See how it works for you. You will feel, by the end of a week of doing that, by the end of 1 week of receiving compliments, you will have shifted your focus in your psyche from self-defacing focus, like let's laugh it off, let's just sort of shake my head away, laugh it off, ha ha ha, whatever that person might have said about me, to changing the game and focusing on receiving that compliment. So you look at the person and you just say thank you. Your focus has shifted, and straight away your experience will shift. By the end of 1 week, you will have a shifted outlook. Your sense of self-worth will have gone up. And so that's exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you, Erin, for the lovely example that you've given all of us, is shifting focus. By you shifting focus onto receiving compliments from others, you will be able to shift your self-worth and raise your self-love within yourself. You'll find in no time that you'll be dishing out compliments. You'll be focusing more on the positive aspects of people, because relationships are challenging. We are all different. Nobody can see the world from my perspective. Only I can. And the same goes for each of us. You can see the world from your perspective. I can see the world from my perspective. We can be in the very same room, having the very same experience, and we will tell two very different stories. And the key is, if it's a happy story, or if it's a bad story, or an unhappy story, a miserable story, the key is, classic psychology talks about denial, and talks about denial as an unhealthy thing. I like to talk about something called deliberate denial. And what I'm talking about is, I like things, and I like to do it with alliteration, because it just sinks in, and it catches. There's a nice hook. So deliberate denial is not about pretending that something's not there for me. It's about focus. It's about choosing your focus. So I could choose to look at myself and what I do every day from a perspective of, you haven't achieved enough. You need to do more. So wake up earlier, get out of bed earlier, put in more hours. Where is my focus on that? My focus is on what I haven't achieved, what I haven't done. There are always going to be things that haven't been achieved and haven't been done, because we're alive, and every living being is constantly expanding, constantly evolving, and therefore constantly having more to do, even if it's more of the same, more growth, more development. So there are always going to be things that I haven't done. So instead of focusing on that and putting myself under pressure and feeling like I'm not worthy, like I'm not making the grade, I shift my focus. What have I done? So I get to the end of the day, what have I done? New focus, not what haven't I done. And I managed, for example, I'll use yesterday as an example. I'm going to use today because we had some trouble with technology this morning. So what have I done? I nurtured myself this morning by doing my first workload in my dressing gown with a lovely warm, because I've committed to it, it has to be done. Today I did it in my dressing gown under a blanket with a cup of coffee, and it was delightful. So what have I achieved? I've achieved the work very, very well, and I've achieved a bit of self-care and pampering in the mix. That's what I have done. What next? I then decided to continue the self-care because I've had a very intense week with too little sleep and a lot of output on a physical level. Driving far distances, getting up really early, putting in a lot of work, launching a new program. So this morning, after my first workload that was done in a nurturing phase, I then decided to extend that nurturing and have a slow ease into the day with a lovely shower and using a new product on my face, on my skin, and just taking it easy. Little did I know that my camera would play up, and I could have focused on that. I could have been hard on myself. Why didn't you get this going sooner? Why didn't you check the camera? That's what you could have done. That focus would have left me in a bit of a mess. Instead, I stayed on my self-love focus. What am I going to share today? If I even get on live today, stayed in the zone of focusing on what works for me. A little bit of deliberate denial. So I wasn't denying the fact that I had taken it easy. I wasn't denying the fact that I didn't put time aside early in the morning to check the technology for my life. I didn't deny any of that. What I did deny was the voice of judgment. I denied the voice of, you haven't done enough, you're not good enough, should have, could have, would have. I denied that. And I chose to focus on what I have done. And what I had done is connected with myself, nurtured myself, and got in a space where I can share this Self Love Friday with you from a really authentic space. If I even got on at all, and I did get on. So think about this in the week to come. Think about what you focus on when it comes to self love. You will definitely find as you practice self love and all these different ways to love yourself each week, the more you practice it, the more you will be loving those around you, and the less you will be judging. The less you'll be judging yourself, the less you'll be judging the world. As we love ourselves, see ourselves, give ourselves space, we're able to do the same for the world, which means we will be building a better world. We will be building a better world together by loving ourselves. So focus on your focus this week. That's the challenge of the week. Erin, how wonderful to know that you're going to be focusing on receiving compliments. I'm going to be focusing on continuing to listen to my intuition and trust my intuition in my work so that I'm not governed too much by calendar and time as much as I'm governed by commitment, authenticity, and what it is, and time as much as I'm governed by commitment, authenticity, and what it is, the reasons why I do the work that I do. So let's touch base next week and see where our focus brings us. What you focus on, what you're saying around this, what you focus on becomes your, I can't think of it. If I think of it, I will put it in the comments later. But what you focus on does become a reality. So focus on the good stuff. Lots of love, everybody. See you next week. And thank you for being here. Self Love Friday.